Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, yWhales. My name is Siva Avvaru, and I am managing partner of yWhales Solutions, and I am joined by the infamous Mia Murphy. Mia, do you want to say hello?
Hi, everyone. My name is Mia Murphy. This is actually my first time co-hosting the podcast. I'm excited to be here. I'm the Chief of Staff for yWhales and looking forward to learning more about Common Ground and hearing Florian's background.
For those that don't know, Mia is essentially the glue of the entire yWhales operation, of the holding company, of the podcast, of the community, everything. We couldn't have done it without her. But this is a great topic. We have a great guest on today. We're talking about communities and really essentially why brands should start caring about community building. We are joined by our guest, Florian Glatz, founder and CEO of Common Ground. Florian, do you want to say hello to everyone?
I'd love to. Hi, I'm Florian. I'm super excited to be here on this podcast and looking forward to talk about communities, brands in the Web3, but generally also in the 21st century, the relationship with their fans, their consumers, and just their most active audience online. Probably also going to touch a bit on my background, how I ended up building a platform for communities, for brands, for people to connect, and how it all fits together under this Web3 umbrella. So thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
Awesome. Well, let's just dive right in. And I'll start off with a hard-hitting question here that I know a lot of our audience and a lot of our listeners and viewers are always kind of scratching their heads around. You know, if I'm an executive of a mid-market company or a Fortune 2000 company, and I start hearing the terms of Web3 and community constantly intertwined, what does that exactly mean to me as an executive, and why should I care about community building?
Well, that's a good question. Where do we start? Web3 really is the new internet, the new web, and it's driven by this idea of community. And people say that, you know, the original web, the Web 1 was read-only. The Web 2 was read and write, so everybody could publish information on top of consuming information from others. And then the Web 3 really adds this layer of ownership to the mix. So it's read, write, own. And for the end user experience, both from a company perspective and from a consumer perspective, it actually means that consumers are not just consumers anymore. They're actually prosumers. They are also creators. They also participate in the building of your brand, how it's perceived, what it's about. And we've seen this happen actually in Web 2 already a little bit with this phenomenon of memes. So people on Reddit and Discord, Facebook, WhatsApp, they love to spin up memes around brands and events that happen. And when you really understand how to use this power of your true fans, you can actually elevate your brand to a whole different level where you have sort of free marketing from your biggest fans and users of your service and so on. And so in the Web3, all of this gets sort of a new dimension because we have this ownership layer intertwined into the creation and consumption of content. And Web3 really is, of course, linked to this phenomenon of blockchain. And blockchain is this idea of digital ownership and digital scarcity. And I think the first sort of breakthrough into popular culture happened around this idea of NFTs, so non-fungible tokens. And we've seen new kinds of community brands being created that just wouldn't have been possible in the Web 2. And to name maybe a few big examples is, of course, the Bored Ape Yacht Club, which I think became a really popular community brand, where sort of the owners of these apes could start to actually commercialize their ape, printed on a shirt, printed on beer cans. We've seen all kinds of interesting experiments around how actually the consumers become prosumers and producers of branded content. And I think maybe to me even more exciting example is Nouns. So Nouns DAO, which is a completely community-driven brand also around NFTs, where people own a noun, one of these NFTs, and then they are part of this whole community of users who together decide what is nouns actually about. It was completely undefined in the beginning, and now they have an esports team, and now they have sort of all kinds of interesting phenomena and sort of breaking through into popular culture. So I named a lot of buzzwords now, and may have even confused your audience more, but I hope I also made it a bit exciting. So I think as an executive of a company, small, big, or mid-sized, you should care about this phenomenon of community building in Web3, because it really is the future of the success of your company in the consumer markets, for sure. Because when you know how to leverage this power, you're going to outcompete everybody else in your market by 1000x. And so this is also, of course, why I'm interested in this space, and why we're building Common Ground, which is this platform that wants to make it super easy for brands, for companies to leverage the superpower of community for their own business.
If we take a step back here just for a second, I think one of the things that I would be curious to hear from you is why, or if an enterprise is looking to start their own community, where should they start? And also, what kickstarted your own journey and wanting to start a business or a platform centered around communities?
Yeah, great question. So I think I have the same answer to both of your questions in a sense. So I think it's not obvious today how you actually start on this journey as a company, because you're familiar with Web2 tooling. You may be running some of this tooling yourself already. You might have a social media presence. You might use inside of your company some sort of messaging, group messaging products to replace corporate email. There's sort of the Slack part of the universe, which is mostly startup driven. And there's the Microsoft Teams part of the universe, which is more the corporate driven side. But they're essentially an identical platform that connects your employees. And then on your social media platforms, you have, of course, a presence to the outside world where you try to interact with your fans and consumers of your products and services. And today, these are two separate worlds. And then when you think about community, it's actually about breaking down walls and connecting people. And that includes, of course, your own employees, your own staff. And this is why we created Common Ground, because we saw that there is actually no platform software today that is breaking down these walls. The software as a service market today treats companies as a silo. So in Slack, in Teams, whatever software you're using there, it's really just you and your team. And then there is the sort of social media world where none of your employees really hang out. It's just, your followers, an audience. And we see many problems with this sort of dichotomy. And we wanted to create a platform where you can truly unite all the stakeholders that are critical to the success of your brand and your business. And that includes your own staff, but that also includes the people who buy and consume your services. And so Common Ground is a new kind of platform that unites people and actually allows you to create a sense of community, of engagement, and gives you the tools to reward people, to actually differentiate between, who are just some people in the orbit around my company. They may have heard of my product. They may have clicked follow somewhere, but they don't really engage. And who are the people that are actually my hardcore fans? And on social media today, it's just a flat list of people. You just don't really know. And there are no tools to track this and also give rewards to people who are more engaged than others. And so on Common Ground, we give you the tooling to actually, give reputation to people, badges, rewards, through NFTs and other sorts of digital media, and also allow your users themselves to foster a sense of community. So to create really an interactive space where it's not you sort of top down feeding content onto your users, but actually give your users the space to come up with funny memes and all these sorts of things. And to be completely frank, I feel like we haven't necessarily invented a single one of these pieces that come together in this, but we're really the first ones who understand the whole narrative here and bring it together in one bespoke and dedicated platform. So what I mean is that we've seen, for example, in the gaming space, a platform emerge over the last 10 years or 8 years, which is called Discord, which has become really popular among some communities. So it started in gaming, and then it's sort of swept over into Web3 or crypto. So a lot of crypto companies or startups are actually engaging with their users on this Discord platform. But then all the other pieces to the mix are not included in Discord. There's no way to, gift NFTs, rewards, and badges to your users. It's actually a pretty hard to use platform. It's all sort of kept in a sort of dark grayish color scheme that a lot of people don't necessarily like. There is a lot of information overflow in the platform. It's hard to keep track of what's happening. And so we've just identified a lot of problems with this particular platform, but then also realized it's not integrated with any of the other things that you might be doing as a company. And so I think we're the first ones who understand really community as a primitive constitutional building block to the future success of your business. And we want to make it super easy for you to sort of succeed in this new frontier of community driven business.
Oh man, that resonates with me. I'm a member of multiple Discord channels and I just cannot keep up. I always find myself, and if a lot of us remember listening to this, the days of forums, I always am yearning for a forum-like capability within these platforms where I can keep tabs on certain conversations and, re-enter them and exit them, at my leisure. Discord just right now just seems to be a steady stream of consciousness, so to speak, and you have to jump in and enter the conversation at the right point. So Florian, LinkedIn stalking you, I saw you were a German real estate lawyer. How does a German real estate lawyer become a community builder in Web3? Where does that shift happen?
So I have to correct you there. It's true. I'm a lawyer, and I've been so since. I've become a member of the German Bar Association in 2014. Swore an oath on the German Constitution, and have been a happy member of this profession ever since. I think it's really funny to see how lawyers end up in different fields of the economy. It's really one of the most sort of colorful professions I think there are, because you find lawyers in the film business, you find them obviously in courts, you find them in Web3 and crypto like me, you find them in all walks of places, simply because I think we're generally really good problem solvers. That's, at least in Germany, what we're trained to become. We all have to study the same subjects, but once you go out into the world, you really find your passion, and then you can apply these generalized skills that you've acquired over the years to whatever domain that you choose. And I've been really lucky that I've been very technology enthusiastic my whole life. I've become a software developer at the age of, 9 or 10. I've taught myself programming. I've built, software in the Web 1. I've built software in the Web 2. And then in 2012, 2013, I became really excited about Web 3, although it wasn't called Web 3 back then, it was Bitcoin. And then Ethereum came around, which sort of totally changed the narrative of what blockchain actually is. It's not just the ledger to take care of your Bitcoins. It's sort of a generalized, immutable, distributed database that can be the foundation of a completely new economy and completely new system of governance for the world. Sort of this idea, sort of a really utopian idea, and it really sort of caught me, and I dove into it. So the moment I became a proper lawyer, I was already converted into the blockchain tribe. And so all I've ever done as a lawyer professionally was related directly to Bitcoin, Ethereum, crypto, and now I would say generally Web3. And then the real estate aspect entered my life a few years later. I had already, I think, quite a career in crypto. I've helped as a lawyer projects to do ICOs back in 2016, 2017. So it was the first token craze and stuff. I had founded an advocacy group in Germany that was advocating for progressive regulation around crypto, blockchain, crypto assets, those sorts of things. And then in 2018, when the markets had crashed, everybody was sort of brainstorming, what's going to be the next big thing? How is the market going to, recover and sort of come back strong? And my working hypothesis back then in 2018 was, well, ICOs were really innovative. It was a really sort of cost-efficient way to raise funds globally from everybody, from businesses, but also from retail. And so back then, I got in touch with a real estate developer who had the same thought. He was like, well, this is really innovative how you can raise funds like this. His experience raising funds for real estate had always been, highly institutional, high cost, very localized, sort of very burdensome. And so he asked me, Florian, do you think there is a way to leverage this crypto technology to make fundraising and funding of real estate projects more capital efficient and more digital, more accessible to retail and all these things? And so this is when I added real estate to my bucket list, and I explored this space for around 2 years. And celebrating some successes there, what we achieved was that we digitized the first real estate fund in Germany, and maybe even worldwide. We had a permission from the German Financial Market Authority, which is known to be very conservative, to sell a real estate token worldwide to retail and institutional investors alike. And the token that represented this share in the real estate fund was a proper ERC20 token on the Ethereum blockchain. It was, from a technical perspective, identical to an ICO token of the years past. And that was really exciting because nobody thought this was actually possible. And that was pretty amazing, I have to say. It didn't end up being a commercial success, so I learned a lot also there. What does it actually need for tokenization of securities and tokenization of real world assets to be a convincing thing for normal people who don't care that it's on the blockchain? They just don't get, well, what does it actually bring me to do this, right? And back then we had a hard time to make a strong case for it, I believe. I think it's different now in 2023. But yeah, this is my real estate experience. And how does someone with sort of this background end up building a platform for communities and brands to unite and all these things that we do at Common Ground? Well, I would say that I think what brought me into this crypto space originally back in 2014 was this narrative I found in the Ethereum world that was really new back then, was this idea that in the future, platforms are not going to be owned by some big corporations that you have no influence on as a user, but it's actually going to be the users themselves that are going to own the platforms that they use. And this was such a sort of mind-bending idea to me that made me really curious. And what we had seen in those years then, since Ethereum emerged, was really a focus on financial platforms. So smart contract-based, exchanges and smart contract-based wallets and swaps and derivatives. And so a lot of the financial infrastructure that we know from the TradFi world, the traditional financial world, has been recreated on this shared immutable ledger, the Ethereum blockchain. But what we haven't really seen since then is the emergence of actual consumer platforms that are not primarily financial use cases, but actually like social media kind of stuff, content and identity and relationships and those sorts of things. We haven't really seen that emerge in a major fashion yet. And so Common Ground, I think, really fascinated me as an idea to explore how can this actually be done with this, user-owned platform paradigm. And that's just, of course, one perspective on it. But this is the perspective that I think really sort of made me passionate about the idea, and I wanted to try it.
You essentially did decentralization of user engagement with Common Ground.
That's a big part of it. Absolutely. Yeah.
And I think you made a really good point there. I think, platforms themselves are really nothing without the users and the people behind them. And I think that's going to really play out in Web3 in particular. And I think with you look at content creators these days, and really the ones that strive or have a huge following are the ones that really connect with their community beyond just, how many followers do you have? And I think, building a community is really going to be the community members themselves will really turn into your biggest ambassadors or cheerleaders in a sense as a company. And so how do you think that's going to continue to play out within the next couple of years?
I love this question. Thank you so much for that, because funny enough, we're also now at a point where we realize that content creators are probably our biggest audience for Common Ground, because when we started this journey of Common Ground, one of our claims that really got us excited is the idea that we can tell users, hey, when you use Common Ground, you're literally going to end up co-owning this platform. It's partially yours, and it's going to depend on how engaged are you with the platform? How much are you going to interact on it and build a reputation on it and relationships with others? And although this is, I think, a compelling case, I think for content creators, it's actually the killer app. Because unlike, me as an average user of Twitter and, Instagram and whatever, I consume these platforms for free. I actually started paying for Twitter now, funny enough, but generally I consume these platforms for free because to some extent I'm the product, because I'm being advertised to. And although I don't particularly like this business model, it's sort of an okay-ish deal, right? I don't depend on these platforms and so on. But if you look at the creator class, those kinds of people who actually make a living from directly or indirectly from creating content on these platforms, they are in a totally different, space. They depend economically on these platforms for making a living. And this is actually, millions of people now. And if you look at the statistics, you will find that only about 10% of creators can make a living from the income they generate on these platforms. 90% don't make enough money to make a living from it. And then you look at platforms like Twitch, who are now collecting 50%, half of all the revenues that creators make on this platform. And the creators have literally no lobby. They have no power. They have no leverage. They have nothing in relationship to their employers, so to speak, which are these platforms. And so I think our approach to saying, hey, we're building a platform for everybody, organizations, and of course, but also creators, where you end up owning a piece of this platform and you can collectively, decide how you want to run this platform. I think this is such a compelling case, and I do hope that we will be successful in this and help creators have much more agency about how they want to, live their life, have an income, build their community, interact with their community. I think this is the big value proposition that we're building up.
That's interesting because, that's essentially what amplified OnlyFans's, commercial success, right? They initially went to market as just another Instagram kind of competitor, trying to fill the void from other social media platforms and trying to capture that market. But then what they focused specifically on was that creator audience, because they knew the creators eventually had some sort of monetization model based off of their content, right? So, and I love everything you're saying. So where does, if I'm a creator and I've got 50,000 followers on Instagram and I've got 15,000 subscribers on my YouTube channel, or if I'm a mid-market company and I've got 20,000 followers on my LinkedIn, where does Common Ground provide me some sort of added utility or benefit over my current social media omni-channel engagement experience?
So that's a great question. And the way we look at it at the moment is that, you have your primary outlets as a creator where you've really amassed a big audience. And that can be YouTube for some, Twitch for others, LinkedIn, Instagram, whatever it is, you have your primary platform. And, that's cool. You should invest in this and create content for it. But we believe that there is space for Common Ground in this mix, where over time you can channel your true fans onto the Common Ground platform and over time establish independent revenue streams on Common Ground. And the difference between something like, Twitch, which takes 50% of your revenue from subscriptions, and Common Ground is that, Common Ground has a different angle, and we don't want to take 50% of a business. Right. And unlike Twitch, we want to give you co-ownership in this platform. So it's not this anonymous mega corporation. In the case of Twitch, it would be Amazon. And in the case of LinkedIn, it would be Microsoft, where you just have nobody listening to you because fundamentally you're just a small nobody in this big mass of millions or billions of people using it. In Common Ground, actually, you have real governance power in the company that runs this platform. And this is the power of Web3. Web3 is really this democratization of the internet on a fundamentally new layer that just hasn't been possible before. I mean, Amazon is a publicly traded company, Microsoft is a publicly traded company, and they have all these sort of specialized governance powers, how these companies run. And as an individual using these platforms, there's very little impact you can have. And Common Ground is fundamentally different. It's a community-owned and community-driven business. And as a creator, you have a big say in the future roadmap of the platform, in the monetization and business models of the platform. And so there are all these governance processes and conversations that you can be a part of as a creator. And looking at these use cases for creators, I think I've mentioned it, but let me make it more clear. Right now on let's say Instagram, there's no way for you as a creator to sell subscriptions, for example. What you would do is you would have a Patreon profile, and then on Patreon you could maybe collect donations from people, but then you would publish your free content on Instagram. And I think what's missing in this whole mix of platforms is something like Common Ground, where you can both bring together content and subscriptions to create an exclusive experience for the people that actually support you. And that experience includes not only content, but real-time interactions with your true fans that actually support you financially every month to, allow you to live your life. And I think this is where at the moment, creators really don't have such a great option to choose from. And we see that, for example, YouTubers and Twitch streamers have Discord communities where they try to sort of turn their audience into a community. But then on Discord, there's no way to monetize these people. And if you look at Patreon, Patreon actually gives you a guide on their website how to create a Discord community and then integrate some bot that takes data from Patreon and then allows you to do stuff in Discord, which is extremely complicated. I mean, even I wasn't able to replicate this, and I know the tech stuff. So it's actually not easy for creators today to bring both their true fans and their content and the subscriptions, everything into one place to really nourish a community of true fans that actually support them financially. And so this is how we believe we can bring sort of a unique platform to creators that actually allows them to become more independent from these sort of mega corporations and build more sustainable revenue streams that, you know, with 100 to 1,000 true fans actually will allow you to make a proper living from it. And yeah, be a part of this platform sort of on a governance level in addition to it. That's our dream there.
Yeah, you made a lot of great points that I really agree with. I think there's a lack of a hybrid model in a sense where all of these capabilities aren't on one central platform. So in a sense, you're decentralizing users and having to use multiple different platforms. And then it kind of prevents or causes a barrier for the user themselves because they have to utilize so many different platforms that, you know, they're spending extra time on, you know, checking each individual platform when in a sense it could be all in one. And I think one of the biggest challenges, at least from my perspective, in building a platform like Common Ground or building a social platform is being able to build up the user base. And so how are you guys approaching that? How are you guys going to bring the users to your platform?
So we have a bunch of approaches there. One is, of course, our focus on creators because they have an established audience and they have a huge pain point, which is that they are sort of slaves to the platform that they publish on, and they sort of want to hedge their bets. And we already see this sort of multi-platform approach by creators to sort of be like, well, if I'm being banned on YouTube, at least I have, you know, half of my followers already carried over to Twitch, so I can continue there. Or, you know, Twitter, which is crazy at the moment. Elon Musk started to hate me, so I've brought some of my users over to Mastodon. So, you know, so creators are already doing this. They are hedging their bets by going multi-platform. However, every single one of these platforms is still in the hands of a centralized provider. And what's even crazier is that these platforms are sharing ban lists now. So it can very well happen that when you're being banned on Twitch because you said something that's, let's say it's not politically correct, for some people, well, you're automatically banned on 2 other platforms as well because they are sharing ban lists. This is actually happening. And so I think it needs a platform that's fundamentally different to actually hedge your bets as a creator. And this is the offer we want to make to them. That's number one. The other one, I think, is that we're offering creators just a much bigger voice in what features should we actually build. What monetization streams would you like to see on the platform? We're really open to this conversation, of course, especially in this early stage at the moment. So you have a big say, and all the people that already joined Common Ground tell us daily how incredible it is for them that they can talk to us every day. We respond, we deliberate together. It's a pretty awesome feeling to do this sort of in this communal fashion. And then I think we have, as a sort of Web3 company, we have, you know, some superpowers that we're leveraging, which is, of course, this idea of, you know, tokenizing ourselves. So Common Ground itself is a tokenized enterprise. And our tokens represent co-ownership in the platform in terms of governance, but also in terms of future economic benefits. And so we can say, hey, if you go through the arduous process of setting up a community on Common Ground, I mean, it's a simple process, but still, of course, it takes dedication to, when you open a new channel, it creates work and you need the time and you need the energy to make it successful. So if you commit to this journey, what we give you in return is actual tokenized ownership in this platform. There's actually real tangible stake that you have in this platform, and it will not only give you a voice in the governance, it will also make you a literal co-owner of the business. So if the platform becomes big, it's as if you would have received shares in Facebook in 2004, right? So it's literally like, can be huge for you as a creator. And I think that is a sort of superpower. Yeah. And we've seen this work in the Web3 space before, so to speak, right? Some people call this a vampire attack, right? So you take a business that like, so SushiSwap did it to Uniswap, for example, right? Uniswap never had a token. They were not a tokenized business. And then SushiSwap, because Uniswap was open source, they just cloned the code from Uniswap and added a token. And they said, hey, if you provide your liquidity on SushiSwap instead of Uniswap, we're just going to give you co-ownership in this platform forever through this token. And then boom, suddenly SushiSwap was a huge exchange. And if you think we can do the same as a Web3 business to Web2 businesses, to social media platforms, we can say, hey, you publish your content on Instagram or wherever, you can continue doing that. But if you bring your community to Common Ground as well, we're going to reward you with a token that gives you real stake in this platform.
Interesting. So that actually solves a pretty big problem with a lot of social media and fan engagement and consumer engagement platforms today, right? If your Twitter, your Instagram, your Facebook, if you're a company, your LinkedIn profile, your business page on another platform, you yourself don't own those, right? It's you are a user of another platform. All the data, all the content you upload, you are, because of the T's and C's, the terms and conditions you sign, you are foregoing ownership, right? And so if you are representing basically your equity of building your engagement experience on Common Ground and you're rewarding and incentivizing that with a token, then in theory, you've just kind of almost put a valuation of it as an asset. In theory, right? Where, and I think that's a big thing, right? Right. You know, in the dark web, people sell Twitter accounts. People sell, LinkedIn accounts, for false and bot fan engagement. And, you can buy them for a couple $1,000s or what have you. But imagine if I have a substantial following of 1 million followers on Instagram or YouTube, and that is my business. And I want to sell that as a business. Well, you've kind of essentially valued that business with some sort of token. Now we'll talk about if it's a security or not, right? That's a whole different discussion. But eventually there is a road or a path via Common Ground where your platform, your engagement platform for your business or your creator or what have you, could eventually be represented as a net asset that you could eventually sell, right? Hey, maybe a PE firm wants to take part ownership of my engagement platform. Well, in Common Ground, maybe you take 50% of my tokens. Is that kind of, am I thinking about that the right way?
This is beautiful how you put it. And actually, it's something that we've thought about a lot as well. And we have at least some early stage version of this already implemented, where we've said every community on Common Ground should also be tokenized. So we've tokenized the business itself, which we're giving to our users as an incentive to join. But we want also the communities to be tokenized. So if you're a verified community on Common Ground, your community is represented by an NFT. And this is a transferable token. So indeed, if you have amassed 1 million followers in your community, you can sell the NFT, and with it, you're selling the 1 million followers. So it's a tradable asset. And that's, of course, right now, we don't have a community with 1 million members, but once this is there, and I think this will happen very quickly, you're absolutely right that your community is not just, an audience that you have amassed. It's actually a financial asset that can have massive value. If it's, high value people, let's say you've built that's, an investment club community, and you have 1 million people, high net worth people in this community, 1 million of them. I mean, what is this community NFT going to be worth, right? This is going to be, it's going to be very valuable.
Yeah. The yWhales community, for example, right?
For example.
Yeah. And I also think it will flush out a lot of because if you go to a lot of platforms these days, even if you look at the follower count, sometimes half of those or a quarter of those could be just bots or random accounts. And so really flushing out who are your true followers and being able to put some sort of value behind that, I think is really powerful.
Well, and how do you address that, Florian?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, you're giving me all the good topics. Yeah. So indeed, that's something we thought about deeply, because we all know the bot problem. Twitter has become a bit better since Elon took over. That's, I think, a positive of his disruptive style. I think he really managed to get rid of a lot of annoying, I think in particular crypto bots. At least that's something that was haunting me because that's my bubble. I think there are other bots as well on Twitter. But it's even worse in Discord. Literally, I mean, many of your listeners may not have used Discord before, but it's absolutely atrocious on Discord. It's literally, you don't even know who's human on this platform and who's sort of a bot that is trying to take advantage of me in some sort of scammy way. And we see it all over the internet. And of course, the root cause of this bot problem is that still in 2023, we don't have an identity model on the internet. It's just really cheap to create an identity on any of these platforms. And by cheap, I mean it has a low economic cost. I just need an email address or a phone number to create a new account on these platforms. And that just costs literally fractions of a cent today. And in Web3, we believe that there will be a much stronger form of identity that will make it much more expensive, if not impossible, to create multiple identities within a system. And Common Ground has been built on this idea. And so what we have put into Common Ground very seamlessly, you don't even notice it when you come to the platform, is a Web3 identity model. And Web3 identity means a number of things. It means that the user owns their own identity. It's sort of like a portable identity that really belongs to themselves. It uses wallet technologies and other sort of cryptographic stuff in the background. We've abstracted all of that away on Common Ground. You don't even notice it. But what really makes the difference for us is that we've implemented a proof of personhood into the system. So on Common Ground, communities can say, okay, I have these, big public spaces where I don't really know who's passing by, and it could be anyone. It could even be a bot. It could be an AI. Maybe that's even something I deliberately want. Obviously, AIs are becoming interesting at the moment. But then I also want to have spaces in my community where I really know for sure that there's only one person per account present. I don't want to have one guy with 1,000 fake accounts in this area of my community in order to spam people, scam people, or maybe, to illegitimately change the results of votes that I have in my community. Imagine I'm a big brand and I want to ask my users, hey, should I print my next sneaker with this color and this pattern, or should it look like this? Or, whatever your brand is about, you might want to engage your users into deciding your next release of your product. And to make these scenarios possible, the community administrator or moderators can say, well, in this area, you need to bring a proof of personhood. You need to prove to me that you're a unique, real human being, that you're not a machine, and that you don't do this with multiple accounts. And solving this in a way that is really frictionless and simple is, of course, not a simple problem. And we're really proud to say that we've figured this out, how to do this in a way that is really privacy preserving. Users do not have to disclose their real name, who they are. It's fully anonymous. But at the same time, it's a really sort of secure and foolproof way to ensure that, you really have true people only once represented as accounts in these particular spaces in your community. And we think it's a game changer. And you have this little verified badge, and then everybody knows you're a real person. And you can still have some random nickname. You don't have to, give your clear name like on Facebook, which I believe is something that, maybe you don't want to do. And I've just recently read some news about how it's even unsafe for some people to disclose their real name. And it shouldn't be a requirement, I think. People should call themselves Peter Pan or, Lucy in the Sky if they want to. But I want to guarantee that this is still a real person behind it. So yeah, that's what we've done at Common Ground.
And I think also by ensuring that everyone within the community is in fact a real person will actually strengthen the community as a whole, because that you're talking to a real person and not a bot. And I think, within our own community, that's something we really stress upon, is making sure that everyone is a valid executive and making sure that everyone that's within our community has been vetted and is someone that people can trust. And I think that it automatically just brings up the level of trust between the individuals within our community itself.
I agree. And think about reputation. The moment you have a strong identity model, you can actually accrue reputation to this identity over time. And so you can have it, fully clear name or fully anonymous. It's up to you how you want it. But even if it's fully anonymous, you know that this is one specific person behind it. And this identity accrues reputation over time that stems from the kinds of interactions it has in your community. It participates in your weekly calls. It votes on things. It does this and that. And for all of these interactions, these identities can earn rewards and badges, and they accrue to a real reputation over time that can be on-chain, it can be off-chain, depending on how you want to play it. But the decisive thing is that over time, you will understand who are the real fans and the real contributors in this community. And at some point, you can give them more responsibility in your community. They can become moderators maybe, or they can host their own events. And they have so much skin in the game over time because it's so valuable to have such a reputation. And I think this is really also something about inclusion, because, the world is opening up more. The African continent is really entering the world stage now. India enters the world stage. And there are so many young, enthusiastic people now coming online, and they have everything, but they may not have a lot of money. They may not even have a bank account. And so how do you include all of these people constructively into these new kinds of online communities? And I think reputation, non-financial reputation, is the way to do it, because it can have real monetary value to have such a good reputation and network, but it didn't need some initial capital to get there. All it needed is you being a good person, you showing up, you engaging and being friendly. And to me, this is really powerful when you sort of, scale out into the next 10 years or something like this.
That's really why social media platforms are so powerful, right? What they're doing is nothing novel in terms of engagement, but what they have done, first instance, MySpace, and then you got Facebook, and why Facebook hasn't been toppled as the king, so to speak, right? Because people have cultivated decades now of reputation tied to their profile online, directly to their name. That, hey, how many people, they've got 10 years, 15 years worth of life captured on Facebook. And if they were to, delete their account, that means 15 years of reputation has disappeared. And there's no way to grab that because it's all owned on Facebook's platform, right? They have no ownership of their content. I love that. So I love everything I'm hearing about Common Ground, man. So 10,000 pound gorilla in the room. Your biggest competitor or the king that you have to topple is Discord right now. Every Web3 community starts with the Discord. Selfishly and admittedly, yWhales is on Discord right now. Every major brand that is launching some sort of Web3 strategy is incorporating Discord. So where does Common Ground kind of have some competitive advantages or competitive differentiators, across the industry standard platform of Discord right now?
Well, I think it's a bunch, because what we've heard in our user research when we started to build this platform is a lot of pain and dissatisfaction from people who feel sort of forced to use Discord, but there's many things they would change about it. And if you don't mind, I can just show a little demo, and people can convince themselves.
Go on. Yeah, the room is yours.
All right. So I was sharing my screen. All right. You should be seeing the platform now.
Yep.
All right. So Common Ground is, in some sense, very familiar in its user interface at the moment to something like Discord, and that's simply because we took this pattern of the community picker on the left-hand side, which I think is iconic for Discord, and we wanted to start in a way that is familiar to people. However, the big difference that I think is significant already to Discord is that we allow communities, creators, organizations, businesses to publish content as well. And so Discord is purely focused on chat, but Common Ground brings together multimodal communication, synchronous and asynchronous. And so we have a real discovery front page on Common Ground. Here, my nickname is Ada on the platform, and so it greets me when I come here. And then I'm being greeted with community news. And these are really blog articles that communities can publish on the platform. You can see the community where this news originates from, the Blue Fund, which has just done some really nice donation to animal welfare organization, Collective Brain, which is inviting people to join its community, the Music 2 community. So all kinds of different communities talking, giving updates about what's happening in the form of blog posts. That is something I think that's sorely missing on Discord. It's really hard to stay on top of what's happening in communities on Discord, and I think we solved it beautifully on Common Ground. And then when I scroll further down, I can start discovering communities. And these communities are being based on the recommendations are being based on my preferences or the activity of these communities. So it's really easy for me to find new communities to join. And then we also have a blog by individuals. So not by communities, but by people that I follow or that are being recommended to me and what they are talking about. And so this is really, I think, in terms of discovery and keeping up to date with communities, a really powerful feature. When I dive into an individual, yeah, thank you. Sorry, I'm a bit fast.
Can you, let's say I'm part of a yWhales community on Common Ground, and I, as a user, I have my profile, and someone is not a member of the yWhales community, but they liked the blog post that I had published publicly. Could they then subscribe to me individually and discover my community?
Exactly, they can, right? So any community here that is publishing here, I can just click onto the blog post, and then in the moment I read the blog post and I like it, I can click a button and join the community. Since I'm such an avid user of Common Ground as the founder of it, obviously I've joined so many communities. We won't find one that I'm not already a member of probably right now, but I'm really an exception. You can see I'm in so many communities. But if you're on a fresh account and you come to the front page and yWhales has, some update here, I will be able to see this just immediately and jump onto it and then join the community. So this is a really sort of easy way to discover new communities and immediately understand what they are about.
And when you go back to the homepage and it showcases, some news from all the communities that you're a part of and or ones that you can discover, how does it curate that list? Is it based on the ones that you're most active in? Is it based on, the content that you put out yourself, or how is that list curated?
So at the moment, it's pretty simple. We didn't put too much energy into a good recommendation algorithm, but in our next iteration of the platform, which we're going to launch in the course of May, we sort of doubled down on this concept of a feed, right? Because we believe people really like news feeds in all its incarnations and on all the platforms. And we understood that this is something that we want to be really good at as well. So, so this is an alpha version of the platform that we've been running mostly in a closed fashion last year to gather user experience and user feedback. And then in January this year, we made it public to have more users on the platform and get their feedback. And so we've been working for 2 months now on sort of the version 2 of this platform. We will have a light mode in addition to the dark mode. We will have a lot of rebranding, sort of make it even nicer for people. So what you're seeing right now is the alpha, which I think is already pretty good. And then in the next iteration of the platform, it's going to have, I think, a really good sort of newsfeed and recommendation algorithm for you to discover, even more content that's relevant to you. At the moment, it's a mix of communities I have subscribed to and communities that we have curated as being interesting for the users on our platform.
Awesome.
And,
so I create a community, and then I enter my community. Where are some of the powerful features now that is probably native to Common Ground here?
So I'm happy to show this off. So I'm going to jump into the Common Ground community, which is us ourselves as a community on the platform. And as soon as I jump into this community, I'm being greeted again with a few familiar and a few unfamiliar elements for those who already use a platform like Discord. What's really familiar, I think, to people is this idea of the community sidebar. So here is all the places where this community meets and interacts. So we have text chat channels here where people talk. Can jump here, for example, into the general chat where we have really long conversations with our users about all kinds of questions that we're discussing at the moment about the platform, new features, and so on and so forth. So that's the sidebar. But then getting back to the community lobby, as we call it, I get a selection of the news of this community. So it's announcements, it's articles, and it's guides that teach me how to use the different resources that this community has to offer. And some of the unique features that we are able to offer our communities because of Web3 is, for example, this idea of token-gated content. So here we see a blog post about some KPIs that we're tracking, or some weekly reports that we're tracking. And you can see that some of them have this unlocked sign. And when it says unlocked, it means this is a blog post that I can only see because I have special tokens, badges, and so on attached to my identity on this platform that allow me to see this content. And what this means for communities is that they can tailor the kind of content users see in the community depending on their role in the community. And so you can really have different groups of stakeholders in your community, from random visitor to active contributor to moderator to admin to management board, or whatever are the different kinds of stakeholders that you want to bring together on this platform. You can create spaces and content that all of them see and can interact with, and you can create content and spaces that only specific groups or subgroups of groups can see. And what we realized is that there is actually no good place on the internet to have this kind of interaction pattern, where you can share content in this kind of way, openly or selectively, all into one. And so this is, I think, a really, really powerful feature that we call token-gated blogging. And in this version 2 of Common Ground that we're working on right now, we're making this exact feature available even without tokens, right? So tokens are a really nice way for communities that use tokens like NFTs or other kinds of crypto assets to create roles in their community. But then there's probably 1,000 times as many communities that want to do the same, but they don't have tokens. And on Common Ground, we really see ourselves as a sort of Web 2.5 platform that brings together the best of Web 2 and Web 3. And so we want to offer you a really sophisticated role system together with our content publishing that makes this possible. And so this is, I think, a really, really neat feature for communities. And I can show a few other really unique features that we have, which is, for example, this chat here that we call the Human Hangout. And you can only come into this Human Hangout and have a conversation if you are a verified human. So this is what I talked about earlier about this proof of personhood. So everybody in this conversation here is definitely a real human and is only present one time with one account in this chat. It's impossible to come here, twice with two accounts to sort of fake a conversation or influence a vote or anything like this. And people are still, if they want to be anonymous, right? I don't know who AirTune is. I don't know who Ada is. I mean, Ada, this is me now. I'm happy to disclose this, but it's sort of this mix of, well, it's real people, but they choose the way how they want to represent themselves. So I really like this as an idea. And lastly, I think as a really interesting feature is what you see here, which is a token gated area. So this area here in the sidebar has a little lock. And what it says is that verified communities is restricted with token gating rules. And what this means is you need, in order to enter this area and see the conversation here, you need to have specific tokens in a connected wallet in order to see and join the conversation in this area. So this is a really powerful feature to, again, bring people of different, roles and backgrounds and sort of contribution activity together into intimate digital spaces in your community to have sort of special interactions and conversations. And we have a number of these token gated areas ourselves. This one is for all the communities on Common Ground that have this community NFT that I've talked about. They're sort of tokenized community. And this here is one where only the core contributors to the Common Ground project have access to. And so we have multiple token gated areas, and our communities love this feature. If I jump into a different community, Collective Brain, it's a really nice knowledge sharing community, for example, on Common Ground. They have also multiple token gated areas where you can see you need specific tokens on a completely different blockchain in this case, in order to enter into these areas. Of course, I have acquired all the tokens because I want to be part of all these conversations. And so, yeah, it's a really neat and powerful feature. Yeah.
One of the biggest misses, especially with Discord right now, and especially with anyone trying to do token gated access, is streamlining token gated connections to D2C fulfillment of a product. If you are a brand or if you are someone that is selling something, right? Eventually, you want to convert that attention into some sort of revenue. So with your capability here with native token gated kind of build out. And, let's use an example. Shopify just released, a couple months ago, the ability to token gate access to their, your e-commerce site. So in theory, if I'm a brand here, mid-market company, or even, a community or an influencer or creator, and I have my own e-commerce site that is Shopify or on Shopify, could I directly link a token gated access where, hey, you buy this limited run of 50 NFTs, and as you do, you get onboarded into a premier or VIP product, on my Shopify site now that is all one streamless. Is that a possibility?
It's not only a possibility, it's actually a reality. And that's the beauty of Web3, this sort of ownership economy, because it's all really standardized on a few different blockchains. And we support many different blockchains and ecosystems already on Common Ground. And so whatever you want to do in your, Shopify, where you sell tokens or where you use token gating, you can use the exact same token of your brand, of your community, or whatever it is that you're doing on Common Ground to create intimate digital experiences and create exclusive spaces with the exact same token. And that's really, really powerful because users suddenly have these magic experiences where they do something on your Shopify and then you send them to Common Ground and they immediately have access without signing up for anything. They just bring their wallet to Common Ground and they immediately have access to the content and spaces that you want them to have access to. So it's a really seamless experience. And of course, that's something that's going to come later this year, and of course much more even than next year, is selling directly on common ground as well, right? So I think what Shopify does is really an early indicator of where this whole idea of social commerce will be going. And of course, I don't see us, competing in a sense directly with Shopify. They have run an awesome business. But I think what we will be able to offer on common ground is some really neat ways to directly monetize through selling digital assets or digital services on common ground itself. And this again can then be linked to token ownership. It can be linked to rewards and badges, which then again give you access to specific spaces and experiences. So, actually this particular community, Collective Brain, has done exactly that, where they said, hey, this is where you start in this community. This is what we're about. And then here in this channel NFT Access, we tell you where you can buy NFT access to get access to different spaces in this community. And right now they are sending you to a different website where you buy the token. You can buy it with a credit card or whatever. And then you come back and you have immediately access to specific areas in this community. And this exact transaction, of course, is something we can do natively on common ground as well. And of course, something we want to do as well, because we can control the user experience much better, make it even faster, more frictionless once it's happening on our premises. But then again, I think the beauty of Web3 is that it already works, although we don't have this feature built out yet, because of this interoperability and this sort of user-owned identity and ownership model of Web3. That's really beautiful.
So you touched on a little bit how you guys are looking at building out in-app or in-platform purchases. Beyond that, can you highlight some of the other features that are coming down the line or that you have on your roadmap currently?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot. So I wish I could show you our Figma right now, but I think I'm not allowed to. But so Common Ground, we've run this version of the platform for about 8-9 months, mostly in closed, and since like 3 months in open alpha. And we've learned a ton, what users like, what they don't like, which UX patterns work, which doesn't work. And we're pretty far ahead in really launching a version 2 of the platform that will have just an even more streamlined user interface, that will have, I think, a really clear and concise branding that really resonates with users. That the current branding, I think a lot of people like it. Other people are like, it's maybe a bit too dark for me, or a bit like too, I don't know exactly. And I think we've iterated in a really nice way. So I think that the next version will be extremely compelling, just from a visual and user interface perspective. And then in terms of real features, I published a blog post recently here to our communities, and I think some of the highlights that we will offer is native mobile apps on Android and iOS. So this is coming right now. We already have a mobile version of this platform. It runs in your browser, and what we've learned, and I guess it's kind of obvious, people want it as a native app from the Apple App Store or Android Play Store. And so this is coming later in May, early June. We're going to offer newsletter and newsletter subscriptions. We're bringing live audio and video spaces to the platform, so you can have team calls, but you can also have something like Twitter Spaces or Clubhouse-like experiences on the platform. You can do live podcast recordings. We're going to bring voting, so you can actually do real votes with your community to have them decide about things. I mentioned our roles and permission system that's coming. We will also have more ways to sign up to the platform. At the moment, it's a really frictionless sign-up process, but we're going to add more options for users. So these are some of the things that are coming down the line. in Q2. So the pipeline is really full. We're working like crazy, and we're just beyond excited to share what we've been working on over the past few months.
Oh, that's exciting. Real quick on the mobile app thing. I know one of the biggest gripes right now, especially for a lot of organizations that have, official Slack channels for their internal organizations or a lot of Discord communities, is that you can't really have an app direct to your community. If I log into Discord, I have to launch Discord and then go and find my communities that I want to enter. If I launch Slack, I have to jump through so many different channels just to eventually get to the place that I'm trying to get to. Is that something in your guys' roadmap here? Like if you can make direct mobile apps where, it's still the Common Ground platform or mobile app, but it takes you directly to the community and it's even branded or it's like a yWhales app, but really it's the yWhales community in Common Ground.
Yeah, so I think this is the beauty of the web, because we've built our whole application stack on a web first sort of basis. And it's really easy for us in principle to offer this feature that you just described. So you are not just, one icon here in your sidebar. You can actually be your own app. And when you open it on your phone, all you see is this one community. So this is a feature that we can technically offer without a lot of effort. And although this is not going to come in the second quarter of this year, it's technically totally feasible for us to offer it in Q3 or Q4. And you're not the first one asking for this feature. So we believe this is a really beautiful premium feature that I think communities who want this sort of almost white label experience for their community with a dedicated app on the home screen, I think it's something that they would also be willing to pay for, because this is something you will never get on Discord. Like this is just not part of their whole strategy, but this is something that we can really make a unique USP for us. So I hear you. I love the idea, and we've talked about it. We've evaluated the technical feasibility. And I can say that we can do it, and I'm pretty sure we're going to offer it pretty soon. So keep asking for it, and then we're going to do it.
Awesome. Well, how do our users find out more about you? How do they engage with you? How can they help? How do they get involved? Give us the whole spiel here.
So they can always go to our landing page. It's commonground.cg. It's so if you search for us on Google, you definitely have to search for Common Ground plus something else. So Web3 or application, or because Common Ground is a pretty common term, and we're not yet ranking so high on Google. So I hope you put some links in the description as well, so they can click there.
Yep.
Once you found us, definitely launch the application, come in, join the Common Ground community, and say hello. We love newcomers, and we're sure to say hello. Follow us on Twitter. Follow our socials. That's really helpful for us. And then I think anyone who can see themselves as being part of our journey and our vision, they are in luck, because we're raising a round at the moment. So if you actually want to become an investor into the Common Ground vision, reach out to us on whatever channel you want, and we'd love to have a conversation. We love communities that also invest. So our biggest investors are actually also communities on the platform, and we believe this is a really nice alignment of values and incentives. And if you love our vision and journey, definitely reach out to us and to have this conversation.
Awesome. Well, we'll post all the relevant links and ways to contact Florian here on the description of the podcast when it's uploaded. Florian, thank you for your time today. This was a great discussion.
Yeah, thank you so much.
I think a lot of people that scratch their heads around community and Web3 and are really trying to understand how could this be applicable to my business. or to, you know, a potential new business, I think we've got some great ideas here, and Common Ground seems like a great test bed for people to get their toes wet.
Thank you so
We're
much.
excited to test it out with yWhales too.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm very grateful to have had the chance to talk about the topics. I love the questions that you asked because they were spot on. Really, thank you so much for the opportunity. And I hope that all the listeners who find the idea interesting of getting more into this community building and understanding what Web3 is about, I can really only encourage you, come to Common Ground, reach out to us. We've deliberately built the platform with you in mind. You don't need any technical skills or sophisticated understanding of all these technologies involved. Our mission is to make it as simple as possible. So check it out. We're excited to meet you.